What's up everyone, my name is Sashtvi. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing a video I've been looking forward to doing for a very long time. We're doing Taylor Swift songs as book recommendations. I have done this before, so the part 1 to this will be linked below if you want to check that out. And then a couple weeks ago I also did a version of this, but it was Sabrina Carpenter's songs as book recommendations. I had a lot of fun doing that as well, some great recommendations in there as well, so if you want to check that out, it'll also be linked below. But let's get into Taylor Swift songs and book recommendations according to those songs, a part 2 of it. As some of you all might know, I'm a huge fan of Taylor Swift, have been since I was a kid. I've been listening to all her songs. The first full-length album that I listened to was Speak Now, back when it released. And I think the first song I listened to was Love Story. I think I was 10. I think I was 10 years old. So yeah, fair to say I think her music has been a big part of my life. And I talked about this a little bit in the Sabrina Carpenter video. But I often think in terms of music. Like when I'm reading a book, I often keep seeing like flashes of a song, either in a chapter or in a line or in just the vibe of a book. So a lot of times when I'm reading a book, I'm just like, wow, this is so Taylor Swift coded, or this is so Speak Now coded, things like that. I made a list and I'm going to be going through it, and I'm going to be recommending some books that I feel like fit perfectly the vibe of a certain Taylor Swift song. And there's a lot more where this came from. Honestly, the list is kind of endless. So if you want a part 3 of this, let me know. I would be happy to do it. But let's not waste any more time with the details. Let's get into the first one. We're talking about Electric Touch from Speak Now. And the book I want to recommend for that is Behind the Net. Now, I don't have the books in my hand physically because I'm lazy. That's it. But Behind the Net, it's a hockey romance. It's an adult hockey romance. This book is about Pippa and the guy whose name I don't remember. Basically, she becomes an assistant for this guy who's like a really popular hockey player, and he needs an assistant to help with his like housework and stuff like that. The first few chapters we get to know that these two knew each other back in high school but did not like each other, I guess. And now years later they're wondering if the other one recognizes the other. We follow a romance from there onwards. The book is kind of love at first sight vibes, like they did really like each other when they first saw each other, but the other did not know about that. And even now when they're together now, they both have feelings for the other, but for quite a chunk of the book obviously they aren't able to confess that. I think Electric Touch really encapsulates their vibe. Yeah, the chemistry between them is definitely very electric. They're very captivated by each other, and I think just their relationship is also very physical, especially halfway through the book. Their relationship is very physical, and I think Electric Touch is quite in that same area. So, in terms of lyrics, we have all I know is this could either break my heart or bring it back to life. Got a feeling your electric touch could fill this coast down up with life. And I want you now, wanna hold you forever. I think especially with the guy, he's almost kind of he's living the blandest life possible up until now, up until he meets her. And both of them start rediscovering what it is to love life with each other as well. So I feel like the lyrics, kind of go with that. Simultaneously, I think their relationship is also about both of them learning to give love a chance and giving each other a chance, which is also what the song talks about. If you've seen the wrap-ups, you know how I feel about this book. It's not a personal favorite. I think the first half I really enjoyed, but the second half I did not. So I have very mixed opinions about this book, but from what I've seen on the internet, a lot of people seem to really like this book. So I feel like if you want a hockey romance and if you want just a fun, smutty hockey romance, go for it. It might be your vibe. And like I said, if you like Electric Touch, you will definitely like their relationship in the book. I can't with my hair today. It's so hot in Mumbai. Like it's supposed to be the monsoons. I don't understand what this weather is. But anyway, moving on. Next, we're talking about a really popular one, both in terms of the song and the book. We're talking about The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And I want to mention two songs in respect to this book, Slut and Maroon. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, if you haven't read it, I don't want to go into too much detail about it because most of what the book is actually about is a spoiler. But on the surface, it's about the star Evelyn Hugo, who was like the starlet of the 60s, I think, 60s, 70s. And she was the it girl, and then she kind of disappeared. And now, years later, she's doing an interview with this woman and she's sharing her life story. So we follow her life story all the way from when she got into Hollywood, what happened to her in all those years in Hollywood, and what happened after. Evelyn Hugo especially was known to be a very scandalous woman, and throughout her career she had 7 husbands. We're following the story of her with every husband in the story. In the mix of all this glamour and Hollywood lives and scandals and stories of abuse, do check trigger warnings for it. At the heart of it, the book is really a love story between her and her main love interest, I will not talk about. Slut and Maroon together encapsulate the book perfectly, to be honest. So, Slut places the vibe perfectly. It encapsulates the scene of Hollywood and falling in love in Hollywood and being in the limelight when you're falling in love. And the song talks about how if they call me a slut for being in love with you, I'm okay with it. I don't care because that's how much you mean to me. And that definitely is a part of Evelyn's perspective, especially once her love story starts developing a lot more with her love interest. My phone fell for a second, but anyway, I have my laptop here. So lyrics like Flamingo Pink, Sunrise Boulevard, Clink Clink, being this young is art. The chorus, got love stuck, went straight to my head, got love stick all over my bed. Love to think you'll never forget, handprints and wet cement. This entire thing, adorned with smoke on my clothes, love lorn and nobody knows. I don't want to give a spoiler, but that line, love thorns all over this rose. Again, this, I'll pay the price you won't. All of these lines, very, I feel like they hit the mark on Evelyn's story throughout the book, but I can't really talk about how because it's a spoiler. And of course, we have the chorus, but if I'm all dressed up, they might as well be looking at us. And if they call me a slut, it might be worth it for once. And if I'm gonna be drunk, might as well be drunk in love. And then a section of this bridge, half awake, taking your chance is a big mistake. I said it might blow up in your pretty face. I'm not saying do it anyway, but you're going to. Again, in ways, it ties into the story that we're reading, but I can't explain it. And just, I feel like the music, the vibe, the production, it feels very reminiscent of their relationship in the book. And the second song, Maroon, again, if you love Maroon, first of all, what a banger song. Bars, man. Like her pen was working overtime with this song. If you like Maroon, I know you will for a fact like the Seven Husbands. There's honestly so much of the song lines up with the book. I can't be like reading out the entire song, but things like laughing with my feet in your lap like you were my closest friend. How'd we end up on the floor anyway? You say your roommate's cheap as screw top rose. That's how. What a vibe. What a setting. Of course, the iconic lyrics, and I chose you, the one I was dancing with in New York, no shoes. Looked up in the sky and it was. The entire chorus, banging lyrics. The lips I used to call home so scarlet, it was maroon. And then the verse after. When the silence came, we were shaking blind and hazy. How the hell did we lose sight of us again? The way that this is literally the book is not even funny. And I awake with your memory over me. That's a real fucking legacy to leave. Oh my god, that fucking end of the book when we find out what happened with their relationship ultimately. It's a story about devastating love and passionate love. And I feel like that's exactly what these two songs are. If you love Slut and Maroon, this book is definitely your vibe. Next, we're talking about Mastermind from Midnights, and this song is the perfect song for Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I don't think I mentioned did I mention the authors for the other books? Behind the Net is by Stephanie Archer, and Seven Husbands is by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Check and Mate is about our two main characters who are both chess players. We have Mallory and Nolan. Mallory was a former chess player. She stopped playing a few years ago because of certain reasons. And Nolan is like the number one chess player in the world. And one day there's a competition going on and she plays him just for the sake of. And she wins the game and he loses and he's never lost a match. So he gets really curious about her, and then she gets back into the chess game as well, and they start playing with each other and competing against each other as well, and falling in love, and that's the story. And it's a really good romance, honestly. Like, oh my god, I've read two books by Ali Hazelwood total, but I think it's definitely my favorite out of the two. Mastermind in general is very chess coded. Some of the lyrics are alluding to chess, and then Taylor's performance on the Era store about Mastermind is also very chess related. Her entire dance floor, her stage is in the form of like a chessboard. So yeah, I feel like in any way the vibes are very chessy, and the lyrics, oh my god. Once upon a time the planets and the fates and all the stars aligned. You and I ended up in the same room at the same time, which I feel like perfectly aligns with their first time when they get into the room, the first match they play against each other, and the first time they meet each other. And the touch of a hand lit the fuse of a chain reaction of counter moves to assess the equation of you, checkmate, I couldn't lose. And she didn't lose. Then this part of the song, what if I told you none of it was accidental, and the first time that you saw me, nothing was gonna stop me. I laid the groundwork, and then just like clockwork, the dominoes cascaded in a line. What if I told you I'm a mastermind and now you're mine? It was all by design because I'm a mastermind. Refers to something I cannot talk about. So yeah, that's Mastermind and Checkmate. Okay, the next one I'm talking about is Welcome to New York, and the book I'm recommending for it is Take Me Home Tonight by Morgan Matson. Now Morgan Matson, I love. I love her books. Her books always feel so cozy and like a warm hug and like a close friend. Honestly, she's again another one of those authors who's really good at providing you a setting and providing you lots of activities to go through. Very Emily Henry vibes, but like make it YA. That's what Morgan Matson books feel like, and that's what this book also feels like. And now this book is about these two best friends who decide to sneak out, sort of, and go to New York for a night and spend the night in New York. They get separated because of certain reasons, but and end up having their own individual nights in New York. It ends up being a night where they explore New York, explore themselves, and also have a lot of realizations about what they mean to each other and what their friendship means to each other. It's a very sweet book about friendship and love. Just New York, like fully New York. It encapsulates New York so well, and just the daydreaming aspect around New York. Welcome to New York also is a song about like new chances and finding new love, creating new lives for yourselves. And that's what the book is also very much about. So it completely fits together. There's no specific lyrics I will point out, but just the vibe of the song, the energy of the song is very much like this book. Even musically, production wise, I feel like it's the perfect backdrop to them and them arriving in New York for the first time. So yeah, that's Take Me Home Tonight by Morgan Matson for Welcome to New York. Next from TTPT, we have The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, another banger of a song, and the book I'm recommending for it is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Now this, if you did not know or somehow you missed out on, is the prequel book to the Hunger Games series. The Hunger Games, as we all know, is like a modern classic. It's a historic piece of literature, and I don't think any dystopian world will come close to being what Hunger Games was and is. Now, the prequel book is about President Snow back when he was 18 or 19, I think, and it's centered around the 10th Hunger Games. So, we see a lot of the development of where the games were before and where they have come to, and how a lot of the things were put into motion for the Hunger Games that we know now in the 74th Hunger Games. And we see the history behind President Snow and how he became who he became. And in this book, basically, we see President Snow as part of this university in the capital, and he's one of the top students in the university, and his family is actually hurting for money. So the capital for this particular Hunger Games decides that these top students will be the mentors for the next contestants of the Hunger Games. And he becomes a mentor for the District 12 candidate, which is Lucy Gray Baird. And to himself succeed in his university and in his life, he needs to make sure that Lucy wins the games. And we also see him and Lucy falling in love. And this book is basically giving us a window into what President Snow was like, and it's such an interesting read, honestly. We get to be inside his mind, it's like we're seeing every single thought he has, which is so interesting and insane. Smallest Man Who Ever Lived is obviously Taylor being incredibly scathing towards this man who did not live up to her expectations, and honestly just is just plain and simple was a bad guy. I feel like the song is like Lucy Gray's perspective about Snow in this book. So lyrics we have, was any of it true, gazing at me starry-eyed? And I don't even want you back, I just want to know if resting my sparkling summer was the goal. And I don't miss what we have, but could someone give a message to the smallest man who ever lived? Which I feel like if you've read the book and you know the ending of the book, feel like it lines up pretty well. This paragraph, especially this stanza, you hung me on your wall, stabbed me with your pushpins in public, showed me off, then sank in stone oblivion because your queen had come. You treat her like an also ran, you didn't measure up in any measure of a man. Were you sent by someone who wanted me dead? Did you sleep with the gun underneath our bed? I would have died for your sins, instead I just died inside. And you deserve prison, but you won't get time. You slide into inboxes and slip through the bars. You crashed my party in your rental car. You kicked out the stage lights, but you're still performing. My god, the way it lines up in literal sense and in a metaphorical sense. And in plain sight you hid, but you are what you did, and I'll forget you, but I'll never forgive. So there we go. If you like that song, you should give Hunger Games and especially this prequel a chance. Next, we have You Are in Love, and the book I'm recommending for it is Daydream. Daydream is a new release. It's by Hannah Grace. It's another hockey romance. Well, it's not a hockey romance per se. The main character, Henry, is a hockey player, and it's part of an interconnected standalone series. So every guy in the book is a hockey player, but it's not based on hockey. It's about Henry and Hallie and their friendship and relationship. So it's strangers to friends to lovers, and it's very sweet, very wholesome, and there's a lot more to the book than just the romance is what I'll say. You Are in Love, the lyrics. He says, look up and your shoulders brush, no proof, one touch, but you felt enough. and then you can hear it in the silence, you can feel it on the way home, you can see it in the lights out. You are in love, true love. Things like morning, his place, burnt toast, Sunday. You keep his short, he keeps his word, and for once you let go of your fears and your ghosts. One step, not much, but it's said enough. You kiss on sidewalks, you fight and you talk. One night he wakes, strange look on his face, pauses, then says, "You're my best friend." And you knew what it was, he is in love. And there's a line quite literally in the book where Henry turns to her and he tells her that she's his best friend. That is literally the line in the song. The song is basically just talking about sweet, innocent, pure, gentle love. And that's exactly what the book is about. And even this, and even things like, and you understand now why they lost their minds and fought the wars, and why I spent my whole life trying to put it into words. That's what You Are in Love is about. If you like it, read Daydream. Next, we're talking about Ivy from Evermore, and for that to recommend, I have Divine Rivals to you. It's a duology and it's fantasy. Really nice books once again. If you're into fantasy, I'm sure you've already heard about it. The book is about these two gods who are at war with each other and they recruit humans to fight for them in this war. And we follow Iris and Roman, who are both journalists writing about this war. You're following sort of rivals to lovers romance in this book. By the end of the duology, and even by the end of the first book, honestly, they're just like completely enraptured by each other and completely in love with each other. Honestly, once again, the entire song is very fitting. How's one to know I'd meet you where the spirit meets the bones? In a faith forgotten land, in from the snow, your touch brought forth an incandescent glow. Now, the next lines I feel like are very fitting for Roman because there's a subplot in the first like quarter of the first book where he is supposed to be with someone else, but it's there for like a second and then it's gone. So this line, "Oh god damn, my pain fits in the palm of your freezing hand, taking mine but it's been promised to another." Very fitting for that. "Oh, I can't stop you putting roots in my dreamland. My house of stone, your ivy grows, and now I'm covered in you." There's a line in the book that quite literally says that his love has grown like ivy on stone, something like that, which is exactly what the song is saying. So I feel like it couldn't have been more fitting than that. Things like, "What would you do if you found us out? Crescent moon, coast is clear, spring breaks loose, but so does fear. He's gonna burn this house to the ground." Referring to them, their love story, their hidden love story, and the villain of this book. "How is one to know I'd live and die for moments that we stole on begged and borrowed time? So tell me to run." This I think is perfect for book two, especially. And then of course we have, "So yeah, it's a fire, it's a goddamn blaze in the dark, and you started it, so yeah, it's a war." And we're in a war in this book. What an underrated song. Last one that I want to recommend is Out of the Woods, and for that I want to recommend the Caraval trilogy by Stephanie Garber. Now, the Caraval trilogy is following these two sisters. We have Scarlet and Tella. And basically, in the first book, we follow Scarlet. In the second book, we follow Tella. And in the third book, we follow both of them together. It's a dual perspective. The story of the first book goes that Caraval is like this magical, mystical carnival that happens, and both the sisters get invited to this place. And there's a game that goes on in this carnival for 5 days. And basically, when they arrive at this place, Tella goes missing, and Scarlet has 5 days to find her, or she might end up dying. And now she has to navigate this mystical carnival filled with insane magic elements within 5 days. The entire series, when I was reading it, I remember feeling so confused because, in terms of, you never know what is real and what's not real. You never know. Every time you think this is the end, it's not. So you're constantly in this anxious state of, are we out of the clear? Are we done yet? Is this real? Is this not real? And that's a very real feeling in the song. It's about anxiety in a relationship. It's about anxiety about, are we out of this place or not? Are we out of the woods? And that's what the chorus talks about. Are we out of the woods? Are we in the clear yet? Apt for the books, in terms of the relationship also, we have very rocky relationships for both Scarlet and Della. It's not a regular will they won't they kind of romances for both of them, because in this book the people that they're in love with probably cannot be trusted and they may not be who they say they are. So it adds a whole other element of mystery and anxiety to the books. So again, very fitting with the song. So yeah, again, not pointing out any specific lyrics, but basically the vibe of the song encapsulates these books again. If you like Out of the Woods and you like young adult fantasy, check out these books because they are completely in line together. With that, I feel like I've yapped for like way too long. It's gonna be a long video. It was honestly nice to discuss the books and the music and how they relate to each other. It's always so much fun talking about these things. So let me know if you found some good recommendations out of this, or if you have recommendations of your own. I would love to have that exchange. So yeah, share with me if you want to. Just thanks for watching. Follow me on Instagram, linked below. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. And I will see you guys next time.